This is the She Dares to Travel podcast, and I am your host, Raquel Pollock. After spending a decade managing the #1 travel agency in Canada, I am now here to connect you to women that are taking the travel industry by storm, as well as female business professionals that also have a passion for travel, just like me. We are here to inspire, uplift, and motivate you to not only follow, but plan out your dreams, no matter where in the world they may be. And of course, this wouldn't be possible without our sponsor, Staples Studio, where I am currently recording from. Check them out on their website, studio.staples.ca. It truly is a new approach to co-working with community at its heart. There's access to hot desks, meeting and event spaces all across North America. So thank you, Staples Studio, for connecting us and sponsoring this podcast. And thank you for listening. Enjoy, be sure to subscribe and follow along. When it comes to beautiful British Columbia, Vancouver Island is definitely one place to put high on your bucket list. As your island gateway, Nanaimo Airport is conveniently nestled in the Central Island. It's located right between the hubs of the Cowichan Valley and Nanaimo, and you're only moments away from the ocean surf, mountain bike trails, year-round golf, wineries, and majestic mountains, just to name a few. The air terminal building has more than tripled in size over the years thanks to many projects that have taken place and a 20-year expansion plan for the building. And super fun fact, did you know that Nanaimo Airport actually started out as a base for the Royal Canadian Air Force? It was for glider pilot training facilities and wartime emergency airfield. And now more than 80 years later, it's a regional airport that's connecting Vancouver Island to the world. So definitely put Nanaimo Airport on your next destination list when you go to Vancouver Island. So go get outside and explore. Hello, all you daredevils. We are back, another episode here with me, Raquel. And today I am really excited to speak to a woman who has made changes in the tourism industry, has thought outside the box, gotten very, very creative. Zakia Moulaoui is with us today. She is founder and CEO of an award-winning social enterprise called Invisible Cities. This is such a creative and unique way to help those that are affected by homelessness. And I just can't wait to dive more into it. The company itself is a social enterprise. Zakia and her team provide high quality training to empower guides to create, to craft, and deliver tours that are their own, which highlight monuments and places and people that they have chosen themselves. Zakia, thank you so much for being here with us today.
No, thank you for having me. And hello, everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to be speaking to you today.
Oh, I love it. And whereabouts are you joining us from?
So I am currently in very rainy Edinburgh in Scotland, as always, where I live. So yes, it's not the best of days, but, not very used to it by now.
Right. When we went to Scotland a number of years ago, it was raining, I think, the entire time we were there, and it was summer months. So you get a lot of rain, just what happens.
All the time, not a legend. It's very true.
Yeah, definitely. Have you always lived in Scotland?
No, I actually come from France, from the south of France. And I moved to Scotland when I was 21. So several years ago, nearly 16 years ago, and never to be removed again. I really liked it despite the rain. But I originally came for 1 year and never left.
Oh, wow. I love that. It's interesting, your accent too. I can pick up the French, but then I can also pick up a little bit of the Scottish. So I feel like a little bit of movement.
I'm definitely a child of the blend. And some people straight away will say, "Oh, you're French. Whereabout are you from in France?" And other people, especially when I travel abroad, will say, "Oh, you're definitely Scottish." And I never correct them. Otherwise, I would have to tell you my whole life story. But yeah, it's quite interesting.
Oh, that is. Yeah, I love that. So where have you done college, university, or what's your background in that way?
So obviously being born and raised in France, I went to uni in France, in my town, and I studied English. And especially what I wanted to do was to teach French as a foreign language, or to teach English. So I was always a very nerdy student in the fact that I loved studying for the sake of studying. I really love learning about new things, but I never thought about it as something that would lead me to a career, which is why maybe that's a a bad move on my part. But I never thought, if I study English, I can be a teacher, or if I study medicine, obviously I can be a doctor. I always thought, I'm really interested in languages, so that's what I want to study, and then we'll see what happens. So I considered going into research at some point, and then just became a teacher. So I have a bachelor degree in France of English language and literature. And I started teaching when I was really young. So when I was still at university, I would start in private schools and anyone who would hire me, really. So I taught English, and then I taught French as a foreign language. And what that meant for me was working with kids who had newly arrived in France. So a lot of refugees, migrants, and people who just generally were having a hard time would end up in my class. And then they would do a bit of learning French so they could join more mainstream classes. And that was a really rewarding job, but it was really hard on an 19-year-old. And I remember feeling like, this is a lot of social work, and I don't know if I'm made up for that. So when the opportunity came to teach abroad, I took it, and I thought, maybe the solution for me is to teach French, but in a foreign country. And the story is that I had spent a bit of time in London before, and so I wanted to stay away from the south of the UK. I wanted to go further north, and I just pointed at the map and landed on the city in Scotland, in Aberdeen, which is north from where I am now. Yeah. And my teacher said at uni, absolutely not. Do not go to Aberdeen. You're not going to like it. Just go. If you are going to Scotland, just go to Edinburgh. So I'm very thankful to him and his advice. I came for 1 year here. And after a year, I had an awesome time teaching French to very posh students in a really, really good school. And to your listeners, to the school where we said the inspiration for Hogwarts and Harry Potter came from. So very posh. In my class to have J.K. Rowling's daughter. So
really?
Yeah. So I believe the legend was a very, very bright. That's my claim of fame is only that, and being the teacher of J.K. Rowling's daughter. But so it was a lovely experience, but I realized that actually teaching wasn't meant for me. I didn't have the passion for it. So I went back to university, but here in Edinburgh, and I studied publishing and editing. So again, very bookish and nerdy. And I thought that would be the path for me. And I never used that degree a day in my life. So it's just been a very expensive learning experience. But it was very interesting, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. So then with everything that you've done, schooling obviously has taken you to travel and seen different parts and expanded that way, and expanded the people that you've met. Has travel been a passion, or was it more a lot of the academics that were leading the passion for you?
No, I think my passion was really languages. So I come from obviously from France, so I speak French as my first language. But my father was from Algeria, so I also kind of was in a mixed background where there were different languages all the time. And I learned English and Spanish in school, and I was always loving the different languages and cultures and travel. But because I come from a really kind of poor background, and I was raised by my mom only, and she was a cleaning lady, and we didn't have the money to travel at all. I only ever traveled through school or university, and then through work. So my work took me, after I left uni, I did a lot of work in translation and communication, and started working for international charities. And thanks to that, was able to travel through my day-to-day job, which was an incredibly privileged thing to do in my 20s. And I think that's where I got the bug for traveling, and realized that I loved going away. I loved meeting new people, and I loved putting those languages to the test and being able to be there. And I realized, actually, I think maybe that's the part that I like the most, is using the language and being out there. So throughout my 20s, I worked a lot for an organization called the Homeless World Cup, and they used football or soccer to support people experiencing homelessness. And I was lucky enough to travel throughout the world and see how football was
Wow.
helping, people who had been on the streets, out of prison, or having bad experiences with mental health, all of that. And so I realized, oh, I do want to work in travel. I think what I want
Hmm.
to do is utilize that power that travel can have, because it made me meet amazing people, and it made me realize that the world is such a beautiful place that, we can learn from one another, take something home, give something from where we are from, all of that. I really got that passion for travel through my work and
Mm.
through being able to have access to that opportunity, right?
Absolutely. With all the places that you have been able to go to, can you say that you have a favorite?
I mean, I love Mexico. It was an
Mm.
incredible place to be, and I
Yeah.
love Mexican culture and
Mm.
food, and sometimes when I speak Spanish, people say, "Oh, you have a Mexican accent," because this is where I've used it the most. So
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
things from there. But one of my favorite places has always been Bosnia Herzegovina in Eastern
Mm.
Europe.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that hit me there was when I said, "Oh, I'm going there and I'm going to travel through the country." A lot of people said, "Oh, are you sure?
Mm.
Is it safe? Or, what are you going to do there? I mean, is it not run down? It's a next, what are you going to see there?" Obviously, they went through a horrific war not that long ago. So,
Yeah.
there was a lot of questions. And what I found was a beautiful, beautiful place with beautiful people, amazing scenery, a lot of history, and sometimes very, very painful history. But there were scenes where I thought, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Castles,
Mm.
green rivers, and amazing people and amazing food. And I
Yeah.
went so many times because I loved it. And I think it was so underrated and still is.
Mm.
Places like Romania, Bulgaria, sometimes I don't know if saying they don't get a good name is true, but those are maybe not destinations that people think about. But I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. And I
Wow.
thought, this is, yeah. So I used to say, if you could imagine where Snow White lives in the forest,
Mhm.
I bet you it would be in Bosnia, because it's got the
Mm.
scenery, the forest, the countryside, the kind of enchanting kind of,
Yeah.
things.
I hear you. I understand you on that because I actually just spoke to a woman in Transylvania and did an episode with her for a Halloween one. She does tours all through Dracula's castle, which is incredible. But when I was speaking to people, throughout my day to day, I've talked about places like Transylvania, even Croatia, and it's such like a foreign place that people are like, oh, what's it even like there? Is it safe? Is it
Yeah,
whatever? I'm like, of course it's safe. Like, like but I know what you mean. It's just somewhere different that isn't really, high on people's bucket list to go. But that's great. I'm gonna put that on my bucket list. Bosnia. I love
100.
it. I will.
Yeah.
So when you go, you've been quite a few times. What's your favorite thing to do when you're there?
I mean, it's such a small country that you can drive around and go from place to place. So there's a beautiful, beautiful place called Mostar, which
Okay.
is quite famous because their main bridge got bombed and then got rebuilt as a sign that the war was over. And it has bright green water in the river.
Um,
And it's absolutely beautiful. And I always make a point at going back there. And now you have tourism is really developing there, which is lovely as well to see. So they have a couple of amazing tours of the city. So I really like that. And just sitting with people around and having food. If you like Turkish food, Croatian food is
ooh,
quite
yeah.
similar. So it's lovely. Sarajevo is also, I mean,
Mm,
this is where you would arrive, at least for me. So I always try to
yeah.
spend a couple of days, but you can easily, drive through, or if you're able to, or even take buses from place to place because it's so small. And what I always say is that even if you arrive in a place like Zagreb and then you can go to Bosnia from there, it's also quite nice. I think a few years ago I did a bus trip from, Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Switzerland, all of that is
Yeah.
Serbia. Easy enough to kind of link
Beautiful.
all these things if you have the time. So
Yeah.
it was lovely, absolutely
Wow.
lovely.
Do you typically travel solo or with a group?
Yeah, I usually travel on my own. I also travel with my sister quite a lot. a few years ago, we made it a tradition that we would go to Italy together. So just the two of us, and have been to Sicily and Rome together, and and Milan as well. So,
Mm.
and there's so much to see in Italy, right? So you could be there forever and still not know it all. You know, what we end up doing is just walking around a lot and drinking a lot of food and, oh no, drinking a lot of wine and eating a lot of food.
Wine is
And
food.
then
Wine is food.
wonderful food, absolutely. But that's it. So she's my
Yeah.
Italian travel buddy for sure.
Mm.
But my best friend also works in events and travels with me quite a lot. So she's my kind of travel partner for the bigger trips. So the US for
Yeah.
us, you know, and we went to Disneyland in Paris together because she's got a daughter now. So she is when the trips of a lifetime that happen several times in your life. She's
Yeah.
my travel. So, and I love that. I think I'm not too keen on, and that's my personal preference on groups and big group travel.
Hmm.
I think I find them quite overwhelming and just because of my personality. So I like to
Yeah.
spend quality time with, one or two people. Yeah. So I'm lucky to have those partners to do that with and who just love
Hmm.
it as much.
Definitely. And you're right. There's something to be said because I've done both. I've been on the big bus tours where you're following a flag and you're like, okay, this is like how much of the true culture am I experiencing? And then I've done it where I've been solo, traveled with my husband a lot. And I agree. I like the smaller, more intimate as well because you get to meet more people. You can talk to like locals a little bit easier and all of that. Yeah, I love it. What do you think the best travel tip you can share is? Is there something you always need to bring with you or just do on all of your trips?
Get lost in the place you're
Mm,
in is the best thing. And I know it's so
yeah.
cliche, but it's so true. And the best tip, and I think I always try to remember this, is sometimes we have the pressure to see as many things as possible because
Mm,
you're in a foreign country, you're traveling. And sometimes, that would ruin a trip for me if I felt that I didn't see enough. Like I'd be too
yeah.
anxious. So a few years ago, I was in New York with my best friend, and we were so tired that we didn't go to the Empire State Building as we had
Mhm.
planned. Instead, we watched Netflix. And I was
Yeah.
like, the day where I stopped telling myself I have to do all these things
Hmm.
because it's too much pressure. So have a mix of that, chilling time, be in your hotel
Hmm.
room. I always also think that you need to enjoy the space that you've paid sometimes a lot of money for, so have the time
Hmm.
to chill, the things you would do to relax so that when you do explore with your husband or with your friend or
Hmm.
whatever, then you're making the most out of it. So I really try to do that, and I just had a debate the other day with someone who was like, "No, when I travel, I'm up at 6 a.m. and I have to do all these things," and I was
Uh-huh.
like, "I like to sleep in the morning, so you will
Hmm.
never see me at 6 a.m. even if I am in Italy. I'll be probably out later, but I
Yeah.
will not, do that because." Yeah, that's not who I am. So that's, being kind to yourself in that way
Yes.
and being lost as well, lose yourself
Yeah.
in a place and can really discover it and is a lot of fun.
I agree. Both of those, I feel like you hit the nail on the head. When I first was traveling a lot with my husband, I actually would be that person that wanted to do everything and I would over plan. And he's so laid back that he'll just show up and be like, where are we flying to today? And I'll be like, I planned the whole thing. It's so exciting. But after a while, I realized he loves his downtime and I've learned to appreciate the downtime. So I always make sure now when we go somewhere, I need to have a room with a view or a balcony because if he wants to relax and have a nap, I'm learning it's okay to enjoy the space, take it all in, have your moments, and then you're right, go out when you need to. I think that we were in Bali actually one time. Yeah, it was Bali, and we'd been so go, go, go that we spent pretty much like a whole like afternoon, got room service, stayed in the room and watched Netflix the whole night and just relaxed. But I was like, and he even said, I kind of feel bad that we're not out exploring. And I'm like, but you know what? We're here for 3 weeks. It's okay to take a day. Like, let's just enjoy our downtime. So tomorrow we're ready to go. I love that. Great, great tip. Great tip. So tell me about Invisible Cities. It is such an interesting social enterprise that you've created. How did the idea begin?
So obviously my time at the Homeless World Cup was definitely the catalyst for that. So the Homeless World Cup uses football, sports in general, and I'm not sporty. I'm not into football at all. But I could see how empowering it was for people, and I could see how it was changing their lives really. So, you know, the Homeless World Cup kind of has a network of partners and projects all around the world, and they use football on a regular basis. But once a year, they come together for the World Cup. So the tournament, everybody competes against each other, and you represent your country on in a foreign country. You know, you're just there, and people would say, you know, but back home, people judge me, and there was a lot of conversations all the time about the stigma that exists around homelessness. And in a lot of country, if you are homeless or experiencing homelessness, it's because you're an addict, or you haven't really worked hard enough, you know, you haven't been good enough in school, you've not really, and it, you know, it's all this mentality of if you want to, then you can, you know, and if you work hard enough, you will make it. For some people, that is not the case, you know. So we were having all these conversations, and I thought my time at the Homeless World Cup was coming to an end, and I knew, because I'd worked there several years, and I wanted to explore what else I could do. And then in 2014, I was in the middle of that life, traveling around everywhere all the time. And I probably had like 8 trips planned for the whole year. You know, I was more away than I was at home, in my home in Scotland. And then I got really sick, and I was diagnosed with cancer. And the first thing that came into my mind was, oh my God, does that mean I can't travel? And then I thought, all right, okay, that's not the priority now, but, you know, let's focus on getting better. And but I remember thinking, oh, no, no, no. And I was scheduled to go to the Middle East at the time, and I was really excited about that. And I thought, does that mean I can't go? And they were like, oh no, you can't go, you know, because you're going to have to go through an operation and then chemotherapy. And I think that naturally revealed how important travel was to me.
Absolutely.
And after I got all better, and I have been good for now, next year will be 10 years of me being in complete.
Awesome. That is so good to hear.
Oh, thank you. I think it made me realize that I wanted to use travel. And I thought, how can you support people and use travel? And I went to Greece to travel, because I also love Greece. It was Bosnia or Greece as my favorite place. But I went there, and it was at the time where, at least in Europe, we had in the media all these images and constant conversations about refugees who were arriving on the shores, and how much help they needed and everything. And I thought maybe I can be helpful. So I went to Greece to volunteer in a refugee camp for a while. But I also spent time with an organization that were trying to do walking tours in Athens, in Greece, but by people who were experiencing homelessness. So that was back in 2015, 16, I think. And so, you know, this is it. I bet you in Scotland, where I am, that would work really well. So I went home, packed my stuff. I was like, my time in Greece is now done. I'm going home, and started working on the idea. So I approached a lot of projects and charities that supported people in homelessness, or out of homelessness rather, and a lot of tourism organizations, to see what they would think. Is it a good idea? Is it not? You know, would you be interested in getting involved? And everybody was so positive, but everybody was saying, you know, it'll take time and money and effort. And so if you do it, then we will be involved, but we cannot do this ourselves. And that was the beginning of me trying to set up invisible cities, really.
Wow. With all of the insight that you had previously from working around around the world, or traveling with World Cup, was seeing the homelessness being such an issue, what was the vision for the company? How did you see it going?
So what I wanted was to create an opportunity that would be positive for people, an opportunity to be empowered through becoming a guide. And what we do is we organize training so people can grow in confidence, but also be great public speakers, have great customer service, to then deliver stories and tours that are unique and their own. And I think a really important thing for me from the get-go was to be entrepreneurial. So I think knowing that you are part of a company, you represent this company, and you do a good job and you're paid for it is really, really important. And I didn't want it to be a charity or, a play not for profit and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think we can utilize that power of doing a good job and being able to either earn more or get better positions, all of that. So that was one thing. And then the flip side of that, I wanted the tours to be a way to break down the stigma that exists around homelessness, because in my time, I had learned that there were no two people that had the same story, and yet we were all the same, right? So, and I knew somebody once who had ended up in a shelter because she had had cancer. And what had happened was she was a bit older than me, but she couldn't hold on to a job. And then she just kind of, things unraveled really quickly. And I realized, you know what, actually, we had the same experience in theory, very different outcomes because we are two different people. And I want people to realize that sometimes life sucks, and as a result things happen, and sometimes we all need a bit of help, and have this real conversation, which I knew because my job gave me that. But if you have never met somebody in that situation, also why would you know? I always say there's only so much. I wanted the tours to be the opportunity to showcase that in a positive, uplifting way. So, and that's always stayed the same, I think, providing people with opportunities, with training and employment, and then breaking down stigma around homelessness and, needing help and needing support. And things have obviously changed over the years, and we try to incorporate more of the social sides of our cities into the tours. So, people going beyond that postcard and being with locals in that more authentic way. And we focus more and more on, but otherwise it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And it's such a unique idea, but it's such a powerful idea. And it's something that I hope we can adopt here in Canada or, other parts of the world too, because homelessness is something that, so I'm from Kelowna. It's in British Columbia in Canada on the West Coast. We have I think we have 150 to 200,000 people in our town or city, but it's growing so much. It's building so much. The cost of living is so high that we see right now so much homelessness, and we have a beautiful downtown core, but if you go one street off of there, it's like 3 blocks of tents and homeless people that are now setting up to live there. And it's such a conversation I know that people are having on how can we help? How can we just give a leg up or something that's different? So it's such a unique idea. I am very curious, out of the people that you have met through this program, what type of story or what's an example of someone that really has flourished in this structure?
So, I mean, it's, again, we have as many stories as we have had guides and trainees and things like that. But one of the stories I always talk about in Scotland is we had a guide Paul, who toured in Edinburgh and had gone through maybe 10 times, had found himself homeless in his life. And so a lot of that comes from mental health issues, having a job, holding on to it, then things are starting to unravel, maybe prices, as you say, go high, something happens, someone dies, not coping with life, and then the cycle starts again, then putting himself back up again, and then over and over again. And so when he joined, he was in a hostel with his son at the time, and who was 17, and that could be a really big conflict in his life because they sometimes were not getting on at all. And he joined and he said, this is my dream come true, because he was a bit of a stand-upper. He was a bit of a comedian and had great chat and customer service and loved to represent Scotland to people, started developing loads of tours. And so together did a lot of work, and then now he's a tour leader for another company full time, and they travel throughout Scotland on the bus, and that's a lot less because he's so busy with being a tour leader and overwhelmed with that. But he always said, becoming a guide was his dream, and that's what he wanted to do. And it's a great way it's a great example of how the industry can help.
Yeah.
because he gave me the confidence, and he was such a great guide, but nobody would have given him a chance because he was a bit crazy. And I say this with all the love in the world, but
Of course.
I mean, very crazy moments where you're like, you need
Yeah.
to calm down, everything is okay. But now, he's employed, and he
Wow.
last time he messaged me to say he got a promotion, so he got a bit more money, and he was really happy about that. Yeah, so it's a
So
great
cool.
example of how, yeah, other companies, I always say, please do poach the guides, do hire
Hmm.
them. They are great. We've got a guide in, I'm trying to think, in Scotland again, who life is still a bit chaotic, especially if
Hmm.
people have an addiction issue that they're
Yeah.
working on, or if they have mental health issues going on. So things are a bit, still up and down all the time, but he's never missed a tour. And he was never able to hold on to a job before, because 9 to 5, or even working in a cafe or kitchen, that was too hard.
Mm.
And I'm always very proud of the evolution he's had personally. If you think about his career, maybe nothing has changed over the last few years because he's still a guide with us.
Yeah.
But personally, and in terms of accountability, things are really, really different. Just two example. Sometimes people do the training with us and then just sign up to do courses somewhere else because
Mhm.
they have a bit more confidence. It's given them something else to look forward to. And in itself, that's great, but they would never be guides with us. And then
Yeah.
people who reunite with family, I think, is always really nice.
Yes.
Today, actually, I was talking about, we newly launched in Cardiff, Wales, and we have a guide called John, and he is doing a tour on poetry. He's also a poet. So,
Mm.
and his mother and grandmother came on a tour.
Wow.
That was really good. And my colleague said, I think him being a guide has really healed their relationship,
Mm.
because they're so proud of him,
Yeah.
and they can see how much he enjoys it. And with whatever backstory to that there is, like, there's a lot of things even we don't know, because we're not
Hmm.
privy to everything that happens in our guides' lives. But I just
Yeah.
thought, and she said something really true. She said, I don't know what it is about being a guide that's made them think, oh, he's okay, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
But maybe because he's the center of attention or whatever it
Hmm.
is. And I think that's all we've accomplished, and
Yeah.
we've made it a little bit better. He's really young, he's in his early 20s. For
Yeah.
him to have a better relationship with his mom and his grandmother, then I think that's great.
It's so special. And it's so special because it's exactly what you're giving. You're giving some hope and some opportunity and something that's different that they maybe couldn't have found elsewhere. How do people find you when it comes, or do you go out to the streets to find people to join the program, or how does that look like?
I used to back in the day.
Yeah.
Um, I remember knocking on doors of like hotels and bed and
Yeah.
breakfast and hospitals, but now, so what we do is we will go through other organizations. So that could
Mm.
be a charity, a soup kitchen, a place that provides food or clothes or support
Yeah.
in another way. And we will say to them, we want to recruit guides. Who do you
Hmm.
have that may be good? And
Yeah.
they'll say, oh, well, John is really great. He's actually like very funny, and he's got good
Mhm.
stories to share. So they'll recommend people to us, because
Okay.
what it does is they will also recommend us to them. And it will give
Mm.
us some kind of, people will know
Credit
that we're serious. Credibility, yeah.
credibility. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so and that's great. Also, what happens if things are a bit tough and there are problems, we also know that there is an organization out there that already knows them and that we can work
Ah,
together with to
smart.
support them. So it's a better way of doing that. So now that's what we do, and we try to recruit for training maybe once or twice a year, and put the word out, have people come, and a lot of time we'll have a lot more people to start with than people who will actually stick to it. And then from those people, we recruit maybe 2 or 3 guides each time. One, two,
Okay.
three. It depends on who we have.
Yeah.
But we do it the other way around. We do the training as a way to expand our horizons and our
Mhm.
skills and meet each other and learn from one another. And then we recruit guides. We don't do it the other way around.
Okay. What does the training process entail? How long is it?
It's over several weeks at a time. And the reason we do that is because we want to get to know people. So the way we advertise it, we promote it to people to sign up to is say, if you want to become a guide, then that's for you. But also if you want to gain confidence, if you want to gain customer service skills, if maybe you want to work in tourism one day, if you just want to meet other people, just come. There's no obligation to become a guide at the end from their end. Like, we're not going to say, well, now you completed the training, so you need to do a tour. So we have a lot of women, for example, who come for this. They just are ready for something new, but they don't know what that is. And then we spend, so it could be any time from 6 weeks to 12 weeks sometimes. And we do very practical things like customer service skills, public speaking and body language. But we also do a lot of exploring of our cities. So we visit a lot of galleries, a lot of museums, a lot of exhibitions. What I realized was people were saying, the library is great, but it's not for me. I go to the bathroom in the library, but I don't take out any of the books because it's not made for me. Or no, I would not go to that exhibition. There's a lot of work to be done around how diverse and accessible a city is. And we do a lot of tours with other guides in our city. So we do walking tours together to learn what a great guide is, but also to learn about the history and explore those themes. And then after a while, we do say, okay, now who wants to become a guide and why? And so people will come forward and say, yeah, and we also create interviews. So we try to replicate everything that happens in the real world. So we have interview sessions where people have, because I think sometimes we can be too much in a bubble. And, you know, in the real world, you have to go for an interview and you have to be the best at it to get the job, right? So we do these interviews. They were really nice, so that's okay. But from that, we then recruit people and ask them to develop their own tour. And that can be a theme or a story they're particularly keen on, or that can be something they're super passionate about, something that's relevant to their own personal lives. But also that could be something very historical they want to focus on. It's entirely up to them. The final bit is we design a tour, they design a tour and practice it before we're able to launch it to the public.
Wow. That is such a process, but I can see how empowering that is, because that's truly them creating something and learning even entrepreneurship and developing an idea and then having that passion behind it to be able to want to get up every day and have a purpose, really, to have more of a purpose. That's absolutely incredible. And I know this is a loaded question, but it's one that obviously a lot of cities talk about. But what advice can you give for those that are looking to make change in homelessness?
I think the most basic thing, which is to not make people invisible, is very, very important. I think, and I understand that, right? I know we are very busy and life can be very complicated for everybody, right? And so I never judge anyone, but if you see someone, even person to person, saying hello, or looking at someone or smiling at someone is incredibly important. And if you ask somebody, they will say that's probably the most important thing that happened to them. So I think down to that individual level, to try to speak to people or at least acknowledge them is a massive difference. And I think one we really underestimate. And then I think homelessness is such a complex issue, because what we do as well through the tours is that sometimes we have groups that choose to have a bit of a conversation with us about our organization and homelessness and the city, and then they go on the tour and we build it up for them so we can do that. And somebody said to me, but you know, some people don't want a home. They don't want a home. And I said, I've never generally met anyone who wants to be on the street. I think you have to understand that what is it that they don't want? I met a guy once who could not live his life between four walls. What was freaking him out was the walls. He couldn't be in a tight space. And then you have to think, okay, why is that? And it came from trauma from his life. You know, homelessness is often the consequence of a lot of other things. And if the way to work towards it, to eradicate it, is to work together. So it's to understand that mental health has a massive impact, but also, you know, addiction for some people, family for others, health, physical health for others. And that, of course, our governments locally and nationally have responsibility, and we should work to let them know that it's their responsibility, but also, if somebody wants to volunteer at a mental health charity, they think it doesn't have any impact on homelessness, and I can guarantee it does, because it will mean that some people get support when they need it the most and don't unravel, So understanding how everything is connected is one way as well to, I think, be a better actor towards kind of eradicating homelessness, if that makes sense. But I think talking about it and talking to people experiencing it, every time I would travel at the Homeless World Cup, I would come back with a lot of stories. And I used to have a tradition among my friends in France, which was we would always organize a dinner, and they would ask me all the most ridiculous questions they could ask me about the trip. And it really showed me, like, people, I think, is super eager to understand, but sometimes it can be a bit awkward. It could be awkward. You're not going to go to somebody on the streets and say, so why are you here? What is your life story? Please tell me everything about it. I think it's so one step towards that, but not a full on psycho approach. But I think, and we'll be really thankful to have interest. And another question we get asked a lot is, should I give money to people, or should I give them food, or all of that? And we also say it's up to you. If you want to give money to people, like, do so. And then, of course, the question that comes after that is, what if they use it for drugs or alcohol? And what if they do? Is my answer, what if they don't? The best advice I got from a friend of mine now, but who worked in homelessness for such a long time, and she said, Zakia, if I give you a sandwich, what are you going to do with the sandwich? And I said, well, I'll eat it. And she said, yeah, but what if you don't eat it? And I said, well, I don't know. And she said, well, once I give it to you, it's not mine anymore. So I can't really judge what you're going to do with it. Maybe you're going to eat it. Maybe you're going to throw it away.
Yeah.
It's really dramatized my relationship with giving money to people. Sometimes when we give like a bonus to guides, or when guides have tips or things like that, I think, what are they going to do with it? And then it's there. What do I do with my money? Probably buy too much wine or clothes or nobody judges me on that. So
what a profound perspective. That is a really, really profound perspective. Because I agree. For a while, I grew up in a bigger city, and homelessness was everywhere, downtown Vancouver. And I had been trained myself. I trained myself essentially just to keep walking. Eyes forward, don't make eye contact. They're doing their thing. I'm doing my thing. And I feel like I've been having conversations with people. One of my best friends, she is a big advocate for homelessness, and she has no problem walking up to someone and saying, how's your day going? How's it going today? And just having a conversation. And she always reminds me, they're people too. They're people too, Raquel. They may just be having a hard time. So that's actually helped me to be more comfortable when someone's around that is experiencing homelessness too. But I just think that's such a good reminder. What we give to them ends up being theirs anyways. So what they want to do with it is up to them, and we're just helping.
So a big thing I talk about all the time is the other side of that is sometimes, we do a lot for people, and you think everybody is you do so much and you work so hard, and people are horrible. I always say it's not because somebody's experiencing homelessness that they are not horrible, or that they're not dangerous, or that they're not. So it's also, if that's who we know that to be true in our lives. I've met some really horrible people in my time who I would not spend a minute with. I would not give the time of day. And it's not because they are having a hard time that I should, and I think sometimes, especially when you start a career in support or social housing or social, whatever it is, or entrepreneurship, whatever it is, people think, oh, you should always, that's why also we don't put judgment on if you find it hard to do like your friend, going to somebody and say, hey, how's it going? That's okay. Like, you don't have to do the full thing. I think it's, remembering that if people are people, then everything's true for everybody, right? So try to remember that. But even for me, sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, it's one little change, right? Just a different perspective. And I hope that this can offer a different insight and perspective, or even inspire someone that listens to this, that they want to maybe do something like this within their city or town or community as well. And I do want to know, out of all the things that you've done and the change that you're making, if you could be remembered for one thing for your time here on this beautiful earth, what would you want to be remembered for?
That's a very hard question. I just want to be remembered as somebody who tried, because God knows I don't have all the answers, but
Yeah.
and really believe in the power of the little things, like in having a little impact on
Yeah.
people. And I want to be remembered as somebody who tried to do a lot of little things. And I always use the story when I was very little. Things were tough at home, and I was part of a charity group who was giving out a lot of presents at Christmas, and I missed out on the day that they gave the presents. So somebody came to my house at the time to deliver me a Christmas present, and it was like a trumpet, a toy trumpet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 4, and I'm now 36, and I can still remember this day. I can still remember the day and the door and all of that. So I think if we can be remembered for, and I don't remember the faces of these people, but if I can be remembered for having had that impact once in someone's life, and that's great. I think that's all we can do to try and work hard at trying. And then I think there's a lot of power in that, because if we did, or if all of us did it, then I think we would create a lot of change. And of course, I also believe in the power of the universe. Things happen sometimes and you don't really know why or how. Never thought that Invisible Cities would become such a thing and evolve like this after 7 years. I remember there was a sentence that I used to say. I said, if we can make it until Christmas, then I will be so happy. And that was maybe 5 Christmases ago.
Oh,
7.
good.
So, and I used to say that all the time as a way to reassure myself and say, if we can make it until Christmas. But of course, that is not mine it happened that way. And we've been incredibly lucky to have support and to have customers and all of this. And of course, we work, all of us, very hard at it. But so that's why I think if we try to do the little things, the universe also will work out in a way that will make an impact. So yeah, I just want to try. And also, I don't have all of the answers. I don't know. So sometimes I definitely fake it until I make it, and, try to figure it out as I go along. Or sometimes it's too late for it. So I love so much about it. It's a learning journey, and it's definitely not one that's set in stone.
I love it. I think that is very, again, profound. And I think that you are going to be remembered for trying, because you definitely have been trying from learning what you've done with languages, and then taking that and using it to help others and travel the world. And then now what you're doing, I really feel this is so inspiring. And I hope that someone listening will take this inspiration and run with it close to home here too. I really, really do, because I see the impact and the value of it. And tourism is something that once you're in tourism, like, you just love it. So it's just like Paul, you were talking about, and his journey and now being a tour guide. So absolutely incredible. I really appreciate you being here and sharing your journey and your story. Where can people find more about Invisible Cities?
So obviously on our website, which is invisible-cities.org, but also on all the social media channels. So Instagram, Invisible Cities Tours, in one word, Facebook, Invisible Cities Tours, in one word, and Twitter, Invisible Cities, LinkedIn, if that's your preferred method, everywhere, Invisible. So there is also a book called Invisible Cities, which I only found afterwards. So if you open Invisible Cities Tours, then you can find us. But yeah, all the social media channels, and the best place to go if you want to learn more about it is our website, because we try to promote stories of our guides and projects and things we're running all the time, and then explore a bit more.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for your time, your story, and just your passion behind tourism, as well as helping others. Thanks for being here. When it comes to beautiful British Columbia, Vancouver Island is definitely one place to put high on your bucket list. As your island gateway, Nanaimo Airport is conveniently nestled in the Central Island. It's located right between the hubs of the Cowichan Valley and Nanaimo, and you're only moments away from the ocean surf, mountain bike trails, year-round golf, wineries, and majestic mountains, just to name a few. The air terminal building has more than tripled in size over the years thanks to many projects that have taken place and a 20-year expansion plan for the building. And super fun fact, did you know that Nanaimo Airport actually started out as a base for the Royal Canadian Air Force. It was for glider pilot training facilities and wartime emergency airfield. And now more than 80 years later, it's a regional airport that's connecting Vancouver Island to the world. So definitely put Nanaimo Airport on your next destination list when you go to Vancouver Island. So go get outside and explore. If you like this episode, please subscribe, download a few more, and leave a review. I really would love to hear from you, what you enjoyed and what your key takeaways were. And of course, please let me know if there's any aspect of the travel industry you want me to talk about next. You can also search for the hashtag SheDaresToTravelPodcast on Instagram and comment on the episode's post with your questions. I'd love to answer them all for you guys. I hope you enjoy your day, stay so well, and until next time, fly straight.